Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, the official sportsbook partner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jacksonville Jaguars. It's Week 18 and playoff spots are on the line. Think you know how it's going to play out? Build a same-game parlay on Hard Rock Bet and turn game day into a payday. If you miss kickoff, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet is live in-game betting, so you're never too late to the action. Find a winner and grab that player prop you meant to play. And live bet on college or pro football between snaps and 2 easy taps, baby. Plus, Hard Rock Bet, they offer new promos every single day. So if you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but also an extra $150 in bonus bets. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today and make your first deposit. What is going on, everybody? We have a number one seed in the NFC, and it is the Seattle Seahawks, who just beat the Niners tonight 13-3. We will dive into the game. We will dive into its implications moving forward on the playoffs from Seattle's side, from the 49ers side. We'll just talk about the game. But before we talk any football, I need you to subscribe. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Leave a comment. You guys can scream at each other down there. Like the video. Share it with your friends. We appreciate you guys. So thanks for coming all season as we come down the home stretch here. And again, congrats to Seattle Seahawks, who are the number one seed. And, former guest of the podcast. And I don't want to go as far as say a buddy, but he does text me back. John Schneider for a just an awesome moment. Big pit stains tonight on television as he was fired up in the box, and pretty devastating loss for the 49ers. Not just because they got their ass kicked, but because of their injury situation now going into the playoffs. Even Kyle clearly was telling the ESPN broadcast that tonight's it. If we want to make a run, we got to win tonight because we're not equipped to just go on the road 3 times, given the health of our team. And obviously, that came to fruition tonight. So there also happened to be another game this morning or this afternoon, depending where you live, maybe this evening if you're on the East Coast. Not going to lie, it had like preseason vibes. Like it had preseason vibes where the starters were playing and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won. Have a very, very strong take when it comes to under 500 and winning a division, which honestly is, to me, the most important part that came out of that game. We don't even know who won the division because the Atlanta Falcons beat the Rams last week. And if they win again, Carolina will win the division at 8-9, even though they lost today. So that wasn't like a win or get in to the playoffs type situation. Kind of weird, but is what it is when it comes to the NFC South. I guess let's just start. And let's just give them their flowers, because the Seattle Seahawks accomplished an incredible feat tonight, becoming the number one seed. Leading up to week 1, they were a 5-1 underdog to win the division. The 49ers were favored, obviously. Things changed throughout the course of the season with their injuries, but still, I mean, they have Kyle Shanahan, they got Robert Saleh. They were favored to win it, and right there with them was the Los Angeles Rams. And the Seattle Seahawks, with Sam Darnold, second-year coach Mike McDonald, and future Hall of Fame general manager John Schneider, are the number one seed. Right before I hopped on here, I Googled, which is essentially AI, and I said, when was the last time Seattle hosted a playoff game? And that was 2017. The Seattle Seahawks, who early on in Pete Carroll's tenure was I would say one of the best teams in the league. Well, people forget those last several years of Russell Wilson, even when he was playing pretty well, they were going on the road. They have not hosted a playoff game where it is a extremely tough place to play. It's a massive home field advantage. One of the really I would say short list of teams that you would say have a collegiate feel in almost a decade. And they deserved it because they dominated the Niners tonight. They dominated them. Honestly, at half, when it was 10-3, I went, the Niners should be, doing cartwheels that this is a one-score game. The Niners had 3 first downs in the first half. Seattle 4X'd them on first downs. They almost had 200 yards of offense in the first half. And here's the thing, the 49ers had been playing the last couple of weeks teams with no defense, and they eviscerated them. And tonight, and I've been saying this for a while, Mike Macdonald, if he was an offensive coach, would be one of the toasts of the league. But he's a defensive guy. And we just celebrate offense more. We just do. I mean, the league is built and the business is built now around offense. You are completely screwed as a defensive player when it comes to, no matter how great you are, you don't get as much credit as the offensive guys. Obviously, from a playing standpoint and the officiating standpoint, you're at a huge disadvantage. And we talk a ton. I mean, obviously, Andy's been toast to the league for the last half decade. And Kyle and McVay and all the other offensive guys around the league we talk about, and I'm guilty as anybody nonstop, but I haven't beaten the drum for this guy. He's elite. And now his record and his ability against Kyle Shanahan kind of speaks for itself. I mean, the 49ers offense is built on running the ball. I think probably within the last year, Jay Gruden, former NFL coach, John's brother, came on this show, and we were just BSing talking football. And we talked about Kyle Shanahan and that offense. And he said from a pure passing standpoint, that's not what they do. Like, no one studies their offense for just drop back passing. It is an offense going back to his father, which ironically, Clint Kubiak, who's now the offensive coordinator for Seattle, who's the son of Gary, who played for Mike Shanahan, coached for Mike Shanahan. Kyle played for the Kubiak. Kubiak that family might as well be the cousins of the Shanahan. The entire offense is predicated on running the ball. And when you can run the ball, you dominate in the passing game because the majority of their passes, if your quarterback is just competent, are layups. And then it's the NFL, so obviously there are going to be plays where you have to make. But how many times tonight Sam Darnold on these boots is he just dumping it off? Because that's the job in this offense. And when you can run the ball, as Kubiak in Seattle did tonight, they had 180 yards on the ground. You remove the 9 yards Sam Darnold had, their 2 running backs went for 171 yards. They dominated on the ground. Meanwhile, the 49ers, who, coming into this game, I would say Christian McCaffrey is widely considered not just one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best players, had 8 carries for 23 yards. They had 12 carries for 53 yards. If you told me the 49ers are going to have a game where they get 12 carries and they're playing a team like Seattle, who has a good defense, they're going to have no chance to win. Also, if you would have told me that the 49ers would have 3 points, I'd be like, I bet Purdy throws a bunch of interceptions. That was not the case, right? He obviously had the one at the goal line where McCaffrey dropped it, but Purdy was fine. It wasn't he wasn't their problem. They can't run the ball. When they can't run the ball, their offense does not work. They're not built to play like that. And Mike Macdonald now, and it wasn't like he was at home last week. They played on the road, had to fly across the country, and they physically manhandled the 49ers, shoved them around. It felt like every time they tackled them, guys went backwards. Troy Aikman even said it on a late run by McCaffrey. It looks like he's running into a brick wall. He has nowhere to go. Even if you put Barry Sanders in there tonight, maybe he gains a couple more yards juking a guy out, but there was no green grass. And the way this team was built physically from a defensive standpoint, I mean, all their DBs hit. You can't be a physical defense, in my opinion, just based off your defensive line. Your secondary has to hit. In Seattle, the team that they are going to be remembered for forever is the LOB Seattle Seahawks, right? won a Super Bowl, went to another. Well, part of the reason that defense was so feared, and I think they led the league in scoring defense 4 years in a row, because their secondary hit like they were Ray Lewis or Brian Urlacher. Obviously, Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, but Richard Sherman, to me, is the greatest tackling cornerback I'd ever seen. And that's the way these guys play. Now, the 49ers DBs hit too. It's honestly the only reason their defense had a shot, because their defensive backs tackle. Their D-line can't really do much, right? And obviously their linebackers, I mean, by the end of the game, they're playing with guys that were free agents like 3 weeks ago. But Seattle deserved to win tonight. They manhandled this game from the jump. They went right down the field on the first drive of the game. And honestly, I thought Mike went for it on fourth down because everyone's kind of been saying, right, you're too conservative. And he's playing Kyle Shanahan, who their offense had been, I think, scored 10 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So he's thinking like, hey, we got to score touchdowns, and it backfired. And then I think the next couple drives he realized we don't need to play this way. I need to do exactly what I've been doing. Be conservative. Because the 49ers offense, best case, was going to get to the low teens. It was not going to be a game when they scored many points. Their defensive line, I mean, that last play of the game, technically the last play of the game for the 49ers, I thought Brock Purdy was murdered. Honestly, I thought, like, how did he just shatter his entire lower body? And all night long, they beat the shit out of him. They hit him over and over and over again. And when they didn't hit him, anyone he threw to, they destroyed. And hell, Kittle's a good example. Typically in a game, George, and he had 5 catches for 30 yards. Typically, he's more like 5 or 6 for 70. And of those 70, maybe 30 or 35 or 40 are after the catch. Because he'll break a tackle, he'll run over a DB, he'll throw a linebacker to the side. That was not taking place tonight. Seattle showed up to just shove the Niners around. And Mike McDonald owned Kyle Shanahan tonight. Kyle had no answers. The 49ers had one good drive. Ended on a freak interception. But they had one good drive all night long. And it was a big play by Kittle, a big play by Purdy's legs, a big play by Juwan Jennings. Interception, game over. It happened that fast. It was 13-3. You're like, okay, the 49ers score here is 13-10. Low scoring, weird game. Anything's possible. 10 minutes left in the game. Interception happened, game over. Happened like that. And honestly, the Niners were extremely fortunate to be in that position. Right? Myers had missed a field goal. They had gone for it on fourth down, down deep in the red zone. You look at the statistics. To me, the stat that jumps out the most is they had 23 first downs. The 49ers had 9. That is a crazy statistic. The Niners offense had 9 first downs. They only had 3 in the first half. Hell, they only had 6 in the second half. And 4 of them came on the one fucking drive. I mean, it was, from a Mike McDonald standpoint, what was on the line to be the number 1 overall seed, like a Picasso. Like that was chef kiss moment on the season for him. I mean, what a performance from his unit, from his team to come on the road. And listen, the 49ers defense is terrible. It's no one's fault. It is what it is. It's a personnel standpoint. You could argue their best defensive player is a 5th round, 160-pound rookie slot corner. But they still have a lot of pride. They're still extremely well coached. And to just dominate this game. And I think we also learned this. The last couple of weeks, the 49ers had beat teams where they could just outscore them. It's almost like if you're a basketball team. We're going to get into games where it's like 130 to 120. We're comfortable in that environment. But if the game gets like in the high 80s or low 90s, which I haven't watched much NBA this year, but I don't think that happens anymore. Back in my day, a get off my lawn moment. It used to happen a lot. Hell, there used to be like NBA finals in the 70s and 80s. The Spurs used to do it a lot. But are you comfortable playing in those games? Do you have a good defense? And it turned out tonight the 49ers are not comfortable playing in a low-scoring game because that means their defense is going to be on the field. and the time of possession 37-22. Technically 38-22. I'm going to round up and round down. I mean, that says it all. Because Seattle, Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, I guess Seattle fans are down on Kenneth Walker. I know he can be a little hit or miss. I've always had a soft spot for him after his performance at Michigan State. Got Mel Tucker an extension before he got caught having sexual relations with the chick that speaks to the team about being careful about having sexual relations, but that's a conversation for a different day. Again, consensual, I thought, but again, I don't even care, but got Mel Tucker fired for cause. Not ideal when he had a $95 million contract because of Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet definitely always liked him. It was extremely impressive. It really was. And let's face it, like, coach of the year, Kyle Shanahan had a ton of momentum. Mike McDonald just destroyed that. Like, Kyle Shanahan's not winning coach of the year now. He's just not. And you can be like, well, he can't. No, he's not winning coach of the year. Especially if Ben Johnson wins tomorrow and Mike Vrabel wins tomorrow and they're both the 2 seed, one of those two guys are getting it. If not, they split it. But it ended tonight for Kyle Shanahan. And there also was a play tonight on a 4th down where the game was 7-0. And they ran a play-action play that was a shot to Kittle that they never showed the replay on ESPN, but it was clear it was going to be play-action to McCaffrey, go to 85. And I don't know if the safety and the corner both ran with Kittle. I don't know if just the safety covered and Brock was afraid to throw a 50-50 ball. But clearly the play did not work. And it was an extremely bad play call. To have one option and then Purdy ends up dumping it off and it doesn't even get close to the first down. And so many times tonight, they ran plays, and this is why they didn't have that many first downs, where even if the guy, I guess against like the team like the Bears, maybe a Juwan Jennings or DeMarcus Robinson or even a George Kittle or Juszczyk can break a tackle and get a first down, but you can't do that against Seattle. They were just too good of a tackling team. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of Indiana and Miami over the course of the last several days, how they play defense. Not just open field tackling, but when I tackle you, you're going to fucking feel it. And, that's where the GM gets a lot of credit for drafting those players, for getting the right type guys. And one thing they know is, this goes back to the LOB days, they know the type guys from a physicality standpoint, from a mindset standpoint that play like that. And the 49ers do too. They're all in the boxes because they got broken ankles or, broken knees. So it was a masterclass tonight on defense. And the other guy who's been taking a lot of heat, and listen, I said it coming into this game, advantage 49ers at quarterback. Honestly, I thought it was a big advantage. Sam Darnold had a bunch of interceptions. Aikman mentioned tonight, a lot of them come on 3rd down. Led the league, and he had 6 fumbles, so he has 20 overall turnovers. Now, I texted a buddy this week. Some of those fumbles, at least that I've seen when I've been on my couch watching football on Sundays, have been when he's getting hit from behind. So it's like he gets crushed for fumble turnovers. But if I'm about to throw and someone destroys me and the ball comes out, is that really my fault, or is it one of the offensive linemen's fault? I tend to blame the offensive lineman, but who knows? Maybe quarterback coach or coordinator or the head coach would tell me different. But still, like, numbers are the numbers. He had 20 turnovers. I thought tonight, and again, he played in a Shanahan-Kubiak offense tonight. So you'd be like, look at his numbers. They're not that great. He didn't throw for that. That's winning football. When your team is built like this and you go 20 of 26, I thought he only really made one questionable throw the entire night. And that was late in the game. He was rolling to his left. He throws it to Smith and Jigba. He kind of overthrows it a little bit, but it was so close to the sideline. Renardo Green technically caught it or picked it off, but he was so far out of bounds, it didn't even matter. Now, at that time, you're like, hey, man, we can't put our balls. Next play, they call a run. They're like, hey, we're not even messing with it. But over the course of the game, I thought precise, accurate, on time, in command. I do think over the course of the season, definitely the second half of the season, he gets a little sped up and he can be a little erratic. That's kind of the knock on him going back to the end of last year. He just gets frenetic. right? And that's usually that's the difference between the great quarterbacks, always under control, always poised, always calm. And when Sam gets a little off kilter, like any quarterback that's not an elite all-time guy, you can start feeling him getting frenetic. Anyone that plays golf, when you start kind of pressing, you start going fast and it gets worse. No different with a quarterback in his feet. Saw it a couple times with Purdy tonight because he starts hearing footsteps. Don't even blame him, but you can't play like that. You have to be calm. And I thought for the most part, he was really, really calm. Did a great job. Took what was there, was accurate, made some really good throws down the middle of the field. And listen, it doesn't end the questions. Like, I wouldn't put, $10,000 on him to win playoff games. I would still be a little nervous. But if they can play in games where they can dictate the terms, and if they're going to run the ball like that, they can win the NFC. If they can run the ball like that. Now, some of these defenses, we'll see how the scheduling breaks and who wins and who they end up playing in the first round. But like, that is their formula. Run the ball, have Darnold throw under 30 times, and play defense. And I think they would tell you, if we can play games where Darnold has less than 30 attempts, we can win the Super Bowl. If we play in a game where he's got to have 40-plus attempts, it's probably going to be hard for us to win that game. Or it just could get weird, right? And this goes back to, I'll never forget, a buddy told me that was with the Jets that when Saleh interviewed, they liked Sam Darnold. And they said they thought they could win with Sam Darnold, and he was bringing LaFleur from the 49ers. And the mindset was going to be around the offense, running the Shanahan offense, which Seattle does, which obviously the 49ers do, is play in games, dominate running the ball, build a good defense, and have him play where his pass attempts are between 25 and 30. And in those 25 to 30, 75% of them are going to be relatively easy throws, as you saw a lot of times tonight. And then they're going to be 10, 15% where he's just going to have to make a play. And he did tonight. It's why this offense is so good when you run the ball. Now, you're not always going to run it for, 4.6 yards a carry and just the ease in which they did tonight. But if you can run 40 times for 150 yards, if you can control the clock and you have a good defense, it's a formula that has worked since the 60s, the 70s, still works today. And it will always work, no matter how much you want to get pass happy. And here's the other thing with Seattle. Like, there's a decent chance you get a rainy game. So whoever you are playing, you're probably not going to throw it for 350 yards. Rain, wind, could be cold. The elements play in. Their style of football, if I'm them, I want it to be shitty weather. That translates. That will work. Now, depends on who they play. If they do get into a situation where they're down, anything's possible. Because obviously 11 is an elite player. But they do depend a lot on, older Cooper Kupp, who made a nice catch and a nice play tonight. And their running backs, Walker had 16 carries. Charbonnet had 17. Walker had 4 catches, so he had 20 touches. Charbonnet had 3, so they had 40 touches with their 2 running backs. Like that was, McDonald's going to get a lot of credit because the defense dominated, rightfully so. But Kubiak tonight, that was in front of, I'm sure one of his mentors, like I said, family cousin essentially, had to feel pretty good. Had to feel really, really good. And congrats to Seattle, 14-3. Signing Sam Darnold this offseason, let's face it, pretty polarizing. There were a lot of people, I think the analytical community up until a couple weeks ago was trying to tell everyone Geno Smith is good. Geno Smith's a great story. Resurrected his career, ended up making a bunch of money, helped Seattle get to the playoffs post Russell Wilson. If you're trying to tell me Geno Smith is a good player, I don't know what to tell you. If you want Geno Smith to be your starting quarterback in 2025, I don't know what to tell you. Sam Darnold's a dramatic upgrade. I watched Geno Smith play the 49ers a lot. Looked like shit every time. Terrible. Terrible. And Sam Darnold tonight, was in the driver's seat for that bad boy. I don't want to say led them, but was a big part of it. Made some big time plays. And honestly, they could have put it on. I think everyone thought, like, oh, there's Sam, those first couple plays in the red zone and the first drive of the game, which I'm not going to argue weren't good. But over the course of the rest of the game, I thought he was really good. I thought he was really good. And if he plays well, this team is 100% a contender. And the 49ers, like, I didn't think Purdy was that bad. He was 19 to 27, a couple of those incompletions late in the game. At one point in time, he was like 19 to 25 or 19 to 23. He was pretty accurate. They just didn't have the ball that often. I mean, how many plays did they run tonight? They had 42. Seattle had 25 more plays. The 49ers ran 42 plays. They could never get in the position where it's like 3rd and 1. It always felt like it was 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. They're so dependent on Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson. In fairness, Demarcus Robinson made a couple plays tonight. 3 catches for 24 yards. I think he had a couple first downs. But when McCaffrey, I don't even want to blame him, but just was not really a factor tonight. Had some catches on some dump downs. But that interception, like that's one of those where, you know, it goes on Purdy's record, but and I know the ball was tipped and a little behind him. I think he'd be the first to tell you, I have to catch that 100 out of 100 times. Now, you could argue it's a little freaky when he drops it. Brooks is right there, catches it, which is a nice defensive play. Seattle's executives all go nuts up there in the suite. But that was a killer. I mean, that felt like a nail in the back of the cranium. It's like, this thing's a wrap. And he was a guy who wasn't going to win the MVP. But if they were going to win this game, they were going to need an MVP type performance from him. They were going to need him to be brilliant and dominate, break tackles, be like superhuman. And maybe it's just because of the accumulation of the amount of carries and touches he's had this season. And in fairness, he's had to have them. They've had to play like they've been playing. I mean, they won a game last week 42 to 38. The previous week, Phillip Rivers threw like multiple touchdowns. They scored 27. The Colts scored 27 points. I mean, their defense is awful. They can't stop anybody. They did sack Darnold a couple times. So they end the season with 20 sacks, at least the regular season, which is going to be last in the league. They don't gain pressure. The one time they blitz and it works, D. Winters, I thought he originally tore his Achilles. I think he just rolled his ankle really bad, but was right there. And that's where, like, the blitz was perfectly called. The offensive lineman split like the Red Sea, hole right up the gut. D. Winters, who's a really good athlete, fires right through. And you see this happen a lot, especially with like Lamar or Kyler or the high-end running quarterbacks. They make those guys miss. But Darnold's a solid athlete. There has to be some sort of, like in basketball, when you sprint up to a guy, you don't just run right through him. Once you get close, you kind of shuffle your feet. You break down. Like D. Winters, he cannot run away from D. Winters. But if D. Winters is going to run in a vertical line, full speed, which my guess D. Winters is probably like a 4'6" guy, so he's hauling ass. All Sam has to do is move over, and then D. Winters rolls his ankles, probably out for the season. Sam runs for a first down. That's where, obviously, you see it countless other times, but Fred Warner's the best blitzing linebacker in the league. That is 100% a 7 or 8 yard sack if it's Fred Warner. Well, it's his backup or a backup. You know, D. Winters technically like a rotational starter, depending on who's healthy. But whiffs, Darnold goes. And I think you saw that constantly tonight of just guys flying around that probably shouldn't be out there, but you don't have a choice. And they're just not good enough. And this is, I would say, you know, in college, next man up, pre-NIL at places like Georgia, Bama, Texas, Oregon, all the good schools. Next man up could be like a 5-star redshirt freshman. So like, yeah, we don't know who this is. Turns out it's Tyrann Mathieu. Turns out it's, you know, Kyle Pitts. Who knows? It could be great players. That's not the case in the NFL. It's just not. There's a huge drop-off for backups. Trent Williams is a 12-time Pro Bowler. Austin Pleasant's never started a game in his NFL career. clearly there is a drop-off. Trent Williams, if I tied his legs together, probably could be 50% of that guy. It's not even comparable, right? It's not even the 49ers wide receiver group. Listen, Ricky Pearsall is an incredible story. He got shot at point blank range. The doctor, I think it's Stanford Medical, said like 90 plus, or maybe it was like 95 plus % in that area die. It kills you. He lived, fought him off, refused to give up his Submariner. Fuck yeah, Ricky. But so it's like there's no one disputing his toughness. Again, fought off a point blank Glock to the chest. Not only lived to tell about it, came back and played in the NFL as a rookie. But this year, they're very dependent on Ricky Pearsall. Why? Ricky Pearsall is a good player, high-end player. Seattle, if Seattle had him healthy with Jackson Smith, their offense would be elite. Like he is a impact player, especially in the Shanahan offense. But he gets injured all the time. If you remove the gunshot situation, when he showed up at the 49ers, he had a shoulder. He's had hamstring. He's obviously dealt with a knee. Even today, when his injury said knee/ankle. I get it. Trent, freak injury, running down a guy. He's not used to running full speed. Hell, Cross, the starting left tackle for the Seattle Seahawks, has a hamstring. It happens. Big guy. That's nothing you can do about it. The Ricky Pearsall situation really bit the Niners in the ass tonight because you felt it offensively, especially against that secondary where you need a little juice. Juwan Jennings is an excellent player. He is a winning. He's what I call a war daddy. Listen, I don't know what he's saying when he's talking shit to people. Some people think he's crossing the line. One dude on the Browns called him a hoe this year. He just said, "Hey, I'm just talking." Tonight he took a guy for a ride into the Gatorade buckets. He pisses people off, but he's a player. But if you're depending on him to be your number one wide receiver, it's going to be really hard at the highest level. It really is. He's not fast enough. So you need speed and just playmaking ability outside of him. Right? And they just didn't have that tonight. And a big reason is Ricky Pearsall. They drafted him in the first round. In the first freaking round. Meanwhile, the first round players for the other team, like you're really feeling the North Dakota State offensive lineman. Witherspoon's hitting like he's Richard Sherman. They were fucking laying the lumber, which I love. I love violence in terms of watching it. I'm not a violent individual. Don't have much violence in me. I'm not the biggest guy. But I gravitate toward violence, especially in this sport. Love watching it. My favorite teams are violent, physical teams. It's why, listen, I got married in Nashville, but I haven't spent that much time in the South. But I've gravitated to the SEC over the past 10, 12, 15 years. Why? It's the most violent conference. I love violent football teams. And Seattle is. And when they're playing like that, they're really, really hard to beat. And the Niners just couldn't match it. They're not built like that right now. And their guys, I don't know if they were clearly McCaffrey's running on empty a little bit. Kittle's he's a badass. He's playing through an ankle injury. They just had no juice. Purdy's getting hit like he's, their defensive line's Anthony Joshua and he's Jake Paul every play. Like, Jesus, is Brock dead? When Jake Paul got hit in the mouth and he went down, you're like, is he going to get up? That's how I felt in the last play. Like, is Brock? And then I looked at my wife. I'm like, well, they have a game next week. Like, is it Mac Jones starting the playoff game? And then Brock got up and his hands bleeding. He limping off. I'm like, Jesus. This is one of those games where the 49ers, the whole team's going to be in the ice bath tomorrow. And let's go big picture here. I think they're in trouble. I mean, there's no way around it. They are a team not built to just rattle off victories on the road. And if they get Philadelphia, who, offense, a little like Seattle, it's not great. Now, you would say top to bottom, they got more impactful players. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon, Goddard, which I don't care how hit or miss their play calling and Jalen can be in the passing game. you can just score some touchdowns on the Niners defense, and you definitely can run it on them. But that's a tough game. And Kittle mentioned tonight, he's like, the hard part for us, we're a West Coast team. So if we have to play Chicago or even farther Philly, we got a long ass flight. And that's what a huge advantage it was for Seattle. Both their flights, if they got to go if Seattle had to go play Philly or had to go play Carolina or Tampa, even those teams are easy. The Rams more than likely are going to have to play Carolina or Tampa. It's a long ass flight. I've made it. Sucks. It takes forever. And I'm just doing something, I don't know, vacation. I don't even know why. I haven't necessarily made it from LA to Tampa, but I've flown across country a bunch of times. Lived in Philadelphia. Flown from Florida out to the West Coast. You're on the plane forever. I just flew this year to before football season to Hawaii. It was like a 5-hour and 20-minute flight from Sky Harbor to Maui. And at like 3 hours in, I'm like, how much longer do we have? And you look down, it's like 2 hours. I was just going there to booze and swim, not playing a football game. So it's hard. That's why this game was so huge for whoever won it. Because of the advantage, clearly you get the bye is massive. But the travel aspect of the playoffs for these teams, when the other teams that are making the playoffs are way far away, right? So if you're Seattle, never have to leave. I mean, your home field advantage huge. The rest component, again, it's hard. I haven't even. You have to know who wins to even know who they're going to play. I mean, they could go anywhere from the Rams to, who knows? Maybe what if Green Bay upsets Chicago, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it does, it's happened before when Green Bay upset Dallas a couple years ago. It doesn't even matter. They're coming to you, and they've just played more than likely a knockdown dragout game. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I would guess, probably play next Sunday, probably Sunday, 1 o'clock in Philadelphia. Again, we'll have to see the matchups to kind of know, but that would probably be my guess right now, because I saw Peter Schrager thinking that the Monday night game will be whoever wins tomorrow, Ravens or Steelers hosting probably the Houston Texans. And yeah, my guess with the 49ers either play that first game. They showed the thing tonight, Fox, CBS, Amazon. We just don't know who has what, but there's always an NFC game either on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. For us, on the West Coast, 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I would guess Philly Niners would be 1 o'clock. I don't know if the AFC would have a better game than that. And I could see Buffalo, Jacksonville at 10 a.m. Again, could be totally off on this. That would just be way too early guess. But I just don't. I mean, I think it would be a miracle right now if the 49ers won one playoff game. And I think that'd be an incredible accomplishment. You could argue going 12-5 and making the playoffs with that roster. I mean, part of the reason they're 12-5, the 49ers beat Seattle in Seattle. They beat the Rams in Los Angeles. I mean, those are two of their wins. And obviously one of the craziest games they've ever had against the Chicago Bears, who've had an incredible season. If Chicago wins tomorrow, what are they? 13-win team? I don't want to get that wrong. Chicago right now, they'd be 12. So they beat a 13-win team, a 14-win team, and a 12-win team. So, like, people are like, 49ers beating nobody. No, they beat 3 playoff teams. The number 1 seed, the number 5 seed, and probably the number 2 seed. But the problem was tonight, the team that they played Seattle with was a lot different than the team they played Seattle with in Seattle. And Seattle knew it. And the coaching ability of Mike is just top notch. I'm just that was incredible, and that shit translates. It really does. I mean, they were my pick a couple years ago to win the Super Bowl. I put one of the biggest bets of my life against the Chiefs, against them in that AFC Championship game, and it wasn't because of the defense. Lamar played like shit in that game. They lost 17-10. Pat Mahomes scored 17 points. I'm pretty sure they had 14 in the first half. Maybe all 17 if I remember correctly, but definitely 14. Definitely the 2 touchdowns came in the first half. So McDonald's a stud. No way around it. Do I think they can win the Super Bowl? I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think it'd be shocking if they're not in the AFC or the NFC Championship game. But if it is Seattle, Chicago, Philly, and the Rams play whatever one of these shitty teams makes the playoffs. Let's give the Rams that win, and let's say the Bears and Philly beats the Niners. Seattle would have to play the Rams in their first playoff game, which would suck. I mean, that's. I think if you're Seattle, you would actually rather play Philly or Chicago. So you could argue getting the 1 seed in a weird way for Seattle is more difficult. Because I think if you're Seattle, if you were ranking your opponents that you would want to play in your first NFC Championship game, you obviously play whoever. But your first playoff game in the divisional round, and you have to play the Rams. Like, I think we just polled a bunch of GMs and polled a bunch of NFL people. How would you rank the top 4 teams in the NFC? Because now you got to drop the Niners out of it based on their defensive performance the last several weeks. It just sucks. You would definitely have Seattle and the Rams would be 1-2. Some people might even be like, hey, if the Rams can just figure it out tomorrow and get a little momentum in that first weekend, they're going to be tough. Philly, I mean, they go 3 and out. Feels like every other drive. They had 17 yards in the second half last week. Chicago, their defense is basically the 49ers. I've been saying this forever. I don't watch high school football, but I'm going to stick with this. At the highest levels of high school, maybe high school is a little different. Definitely college, and clearly the pros, you cannot win big if you do not play defense. It is impossible. There is no... If I read one more article about Cliff Kingsbury becoming a head coach, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. Do these fucking people not watch football? Is this an agent-driven story? What are we talking about? Head coach in the NFL? What? Cliff Kingsbury? Did you guys just witness what happened? And part of the dysfunction in Arizona in terms of his accountability and toughness, which translates to defense, it's kind of like a shittier version of Lincoln Riley. That does not work. What's winning in college football right now? Indiana destroying people on defense. Oregon dominating the defensive side of the ball. Miami crushing people. Ole Miss has got the little D2 guys just making sweet plays. Obviously, in the NFL, defense matters a lot. Pass rush, DB play, physicality. Obviously, your schemes within that. And if this, like the Bears, their fans will be the first to tell you, like, your defense is the same as the Niners. Maybe you got 1 or 2 bigger names on that side of the ball, but that does not work. That's why the Niners, I think every 49er fan would be the first to admit, we have no shot in the playoffs. None. To make a run. Could you win an individual game? Could the 49ers beat the Eagles in a one-off situation? 100%. Games are weird. You saw tonight. Seattle was kicking their ass, and it was 10-3 at half. Like, how's this possible? Niners had 3 first downs. That's football. And the 49ers at one point in time were a fumbled ball. If Cleveland Farrell falls on it, who knows? All of a sudden, they score, tie game. It was a 10-point swing. Football is weird that way, right? In an individual game. You could be a better team. I think you could poll 100 people that watched tonight, and 100 people would say Seattle was the better team tonight. Yet at one point in time, in the third quarter, it's 10-3. And that's the thing about playoff games. I went to a lot of Warriors in their heyday playoff games. You can lose random games and series all the time. It happens in baseball all the time. It does not matter. In basketball, it definitely doesn't matter. Like, oh, you just got blown out in game 3. Okay, 2-1. Who cares? In football, you have one bad half. You make 2 bad plays. The playoffs can be over. The other team makes one great play. Some crazy-ass kickoff return or some crazy-ass missed tackle touchdown. All of a sudden, it's like, I thought we were better than them, and we're down 20-10 in the third quarter. That's what's so fun about the playoffs. But man, what a night. Incredible accomplishment by Seattle. Truly is. Like I said, crowning achievement for John Schneider. Let's face it. I mean, there's Diana's article today. It's like, clearly the Raiders would like Pete to just retire. Like, hey, man, we'll pay you the contract. We don't want to, quote-unquote, fire you, but just retire. You're 75. You refused to wave the white flag. You were the only guy we could hire because there were no other options. You're going to get fired. But if you just announce you're retired, it's easier to go that way. John Schneider won that big time because once Pete's gone, he's hired Mike McDonald. 2 years later, they're the number 1 seed in the NFC. And that's against a team with, I don't know how much the Eagles are spending on their team, but it's a shitload of money. The Rams, we're beating them by 16 points in the fourth quarter 3 weeks ago. Seattle came back, beats Carolina, beats the Niners, boom. Home playoff games, that's how fast it shifted. That's the crazy part about Seattle's season is at that game when they're down 16 points, Darnold looks like crap. You're like, yeah, man, make the playoffs, good season. And then it flipped. Shaheed scored that touchdown. They've honestly never really looked back since that moment. I know it was technically 3-3 last week in Carolina, but Carolina sucks. So I guess I should talk about that game. My main takeaway from that game, and I've thought this for a while, and I've never, ever believed this more strongly, that if you go 8-9 and win a division, one, that shows your division sucks. If you go 8-9 and win the division, think about what it took for Seattle to win the division. They had to win 14 games. They're going to have they're going to have a 13-win team and a 12-win team in their own division. Relative to this other division with 3, 8, 9 teams, potentially if Atlanta wins. Atlanta's rattling off some late victories. Obviously, the Saints rattled off some late victories as well, but that division's been terrible. It really has. Even if things went better for either Tampa or Atlanta, what are they, 10-win teams? You're clearly talking about the worst division winner in the conference. But if you go 8-9 or worse, who knows? You could have a year maybe 7-10 if it goes really shitty. You should not be able to host a playoff game. You should give up that right. I'm okay with, hey, you win the division, you're automatically in the playoffs. But if you go under 500 to win the division, you should then be stacked with the playoff teams, which every single time would be 7th. That's how I would do it. So it's not like, oh, you get to play the 4-5. No, you go to the 7th seed. I think that would be fair. I could live with, okay, they play the 4-5 game, but it goes to whoever they're playing gets the home game. I'd be cool with that. But I honestly think you should be slotted in the 7th seed. You could make a whole other argument, like if you go under 500, should you even make the playoffs? We could make that argument if you wanted. I wouldn't argue against that person. But under no circumstances should one of those two teams that we witnessed playing today get to host a playoff game next week. That is an embarrassment toward the National Football League. It truly is. I like Jason Light. I think he's an excellent GM. I know they've had a weird season. They've had some injuries. His coach isn't great, clearly. Decent chance if Atlanta wins tomorrow that I think Todd Bowles gets fired. I don't know Todd well, but I worked with him whenever I see him at the combine. I've always liked him. He's always been really nice to me. But he's been atrocious this year. Their whole team has been really atrocious this year. And this is not shade because of the division, though that division does feel like the least interesting division in all of football. That game today had preseason vibes. It honestly did. It had vibes in the preseason when you're watching like Miami or Philly or some of these East Coast teams that, play in these humid cities that starts pouring rain and the starters are playing, late in the first quarter, the second quarter, like, and you're just starved. You're just like a crack addict looking for a hit. So you're just sitting on your couch in like mid-August. You're like, hell yeah. Baker Mayfield's on the field. Mike Evans, Vita Vea. But it's still a preseason game. And then all of a sudden you look up, you go get a snack, and all the backups are in. You're like, this is bad. Honey, you want to go watch a movie? I actually just watched a movie last night called Roof Man. Pretty good flick. Channing Tatum. True story. This, I guess, guy broke into a bunch of McDonald's from the roof, got caught, broke out of jail, lived at a Toys R Us for like 6 months, starts dating a girl. I really enjoyed the movie. Channing Tatum, kind of underrated actor. That game today had preseason vibes. It truly did. And given that no matter who, I guess if Carolina won the game, they would have won the division. But it never crossed my mind Carolina was going to win that game. And if it wasn't for a last drive by Carolina that they scored a touchdown, so the game looks closer than it actually was. Like I thought Tampa was clearly the better team. I'm not a Bryce Young guy. It's pretty clear for me. Like, and I was coming out of college, so I'm not acting like I've never liked him. I loved him at Alabama. I'd followed his career like in high school because he's a huge recruit. Um, I was rooting for him, but at this point in time, he's just not good enough. You'd be like, well, his numbers are. I don't know, man. I don't see it. I know he made some throws. No one throws an out route interception like Bryce Young. I don't know if it's he can't see. I don't know if his timing's always off, but he throws one of the easier out route picks. I mean, for any guy that consistently starts, typically the guy that throws that pick all the time is a guy that doesn't start very long. I think Bryce Young is just average as the day is long, and that feels kind. Like pick up his 5th-year option. I don't even think it's an option. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously Canales. Not sure how dynamic he is. Hard to judge a little with his quarterback, but the flea flicker in the rain when a running back, if you just think about it, the field's clearly slippery. It had been pouring rain in Tampa. A flea flicker takes 2 or 3, whatever is coached up, hard steps, selling the run. Then you have to stop, pivot, flip back. As Dowdle went to flip it back, he is parallel to the ground. It's almost like a movie scene when a guy, we watched Home Alone a couple weeks ago. They slip on the ice and they're parallel to the ground. That's what he looked like as he's mid to the ground. And it's just, how do you call that play? And then I watched his answer about why he called that play after the game. He's like, yeah, we like the play. And even Orlovsky on the broadcast was like, they never showed a replay down the field. And I don't think anyone was open. Like, there was like one route being run. There wasn't even someone to dump it off to. What kind of play call is that? Baker threw a bad pick. It was just an awful, awful game. I don't really know what to say. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I do think that Atlanta's going to win and Carolina's going to be in the playoffs, which is truly shameful. I mean, it truly is. And I believe this core of my soul. In no functioning society should the Carolina Panthers at 8-9, the team that we've witnessed, I mean, they got worked last week in the second half. Bryce threw 54 yards against Seattle. Today they are down, 9 points late in the game. And they're going to host a playoff game because Bijan Robinson tomorrow goes for 170 yards. What are we doing? Come on, Raj. We got to be better. This can't be tolerated. But it will. They'll host a game. And hopefully the Rams kick their ass and we move on. If you tell me that it's Rams, Carolina, my guess would be decent chance that's the first playoff game. That's Saturday afternoon. And that would be a lucky break for McVay because he'd probably get it rolling a little bit tomorrow against Arizona, who's just an atrocious football team with a million injuries. They're terrible. I think they've lost by 20, and I was listening to some local television show, like 5 of the last 7 games or something. They are bad. And then you get Carolina. You might get some momentum. And again, like I said, if Seattle draws the Rams as their first playoff game since 2017 in Seattle, that's just a tough draw. It really is. I think if you let John Schneider and Mike McDonald pick, they would 100% pick Philly or obviously San Francisco or the Bears over the Rams. But that will be a fantastic, week 2 playoff game if that's the way it shakes out. Other than that, we've got a little longer than I thought, but it was a big night. I mean, there was a lot on the line. Learned a lot. Seattle's the 1 seed. Niners are in trouble. And I guess we had to. I actually didn't. I turned the game on. I was a little late to the game playing golf. which was way more fun than watching the morning game. And it was 7-0. And I was like, what? This sucks. I don't even want to do this. Is there a bowl game on? It's like, I guess I kind of have to do this for my job. Kind of. I was like, this is awful. What an awful game. At least we had the night game, which I know is low scoring, but it was fun. Adios. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow.